This morning I was sharing that the most difficult aspect of life is dealing with people. It doesn't matter how old you are, where you are, dealing with people is the most difficult aspect of life. So I want you to reflect now and think about why it's so challenging to deal with people. How come? How come that HR department is so important in a corporation or in an organization? And the reason why people are so difficult to deal with is, you brought it out quite nicely in the plays, is we're so inconsistent in how we behave. You can put us in the same situation 10 times and we'll respond or react differently all 10 times. We are very complicated people. We're complicated ourselves, and so that gets expressed and we become complicated with other people. And I say that we use the word complicated not as our true nature, but we've created that complication. And I've shared this with people many times. Vivekji in Mumbai once took our satsang, and the first thing she said when she opened up, she said, "We are not who we think we are. We are not what other people think we are. We are what we're thinking someone else is thinking about us." That's how many layers we add on to our personality. Not what I'm thinking, not what you're thinking, but I am what I'm thinking you're thinking about me. Just complication. Because really all that's important is what I'm thinking. But I've added these 2 layers on too. And in this complexity, we suffer. We suffer through our friends, we suffer through our family, we surely suffer through our significant others, and we suffer with our own relationship, with ourselves, because of this complexity. And that's why in this message that I wrote in your book, I wrote we all want to be stronger, we all want to be smarter, and the last, no one read it, that's cool, and simpler. We all do want to return to simplicity, because simplicity is peace. We just don't verbalize it as such. But deep down, we do want to return to simplicity. You know, Enya says return to innocence. Simplicity is a better word. Okay. Along these lines, you know, since we're reflecting about the difficulty of dealing with people, take a minute just to think about your own lives. And ask yourself, of all the suffering and sorrow and frustration you've experienced in your life, what or when or who has been the source of that? Just take a minute to reflect on your life. Go to the greatest sorrow that you experienced. What was the source of it? Generally, it's from a person. Generally, it's from a significant other. Whether it be a wife or a husband, a fiancé, a boyfriend or a girlfriend, someone that we like, they in turn like someone else, and so on and so forth. Dealing with people is a challenge, and that's why the focus of this discourse is developing synergies in relationships. And now that's why I asked you earlier, how many of you are married, how many of you have fiancés, how many of you have significant others? How many of you do have significant others? Your parents aren't here, you can put your hand up. Significant others? Meaning not married or fiancés, like a boyfriend or a girlfriend. So, small percentage. What we're going to do is we're going to begin our analysis by talking about the people furthest away from us and slowly move in. And the people in our lives that are the furthest away from us are our friends. We're going to talk about our friends, and then I'll tell you who else we're going to talk about afterwards. Now, friends. When we think friends, the first thing that we tend to think about is fun and support. When I go to a party, I go with my friends. It's fun. Or when I'm in trouble, I go to my friends because they're support. That's what we tend to associate friendships with. Fun and support. And if we maintain this attitude that friends are a source of fun and support, all is well. But if we don't maintain this attitude, then what we're doing is we're allowing that friendship to cause us to suffer. We've breached that contract of a friendship, that unspoken contract. And now the key word behind this is that we've allowed that to happen. Nobody can make you sad, and nobody can make you happy other than yourself. I can't make you happy, you can't make me sad. And if I said you've made me sad, that's only because I granted you permission to do so. I've empowered you to enter into my personality. Proof? If there's the mailman, if the mailman comes in here and says, wow, you don't know how to teach at all, okay? Then Shivam says the same thing. I still wouldn't be affected if Shivam said it, but hypothetically, I would be affected by what Shivam said. But if the mailman came in and said, you don't know how to deliver mail, go deliver mail, don't talk to me. Same message, right? You don't know how to teach. Shivam said it, the mailman said it. Same message. But I've given the power to Shiva that, hey, you can affect me, but not to the mailman. In other words, I empowered his message, and I disempowered, that's a real word, the mail person's message. Mail person, not a mailman. And this comes out beautifully in which movie? Peaceful Warrior, the movie of all movies. Because the disciple Dan goes up to the guru and he says, I'm not my thoughts. And the guru says, no, we have millions of thoughts a day, and none of those thoughts tells us any more about ourselves. We empower thoughts. Think about fear. After you've watched a scary movie, Blair Witch Project, or Grudge 2, or whatever it is. And there's so many other thoughts that are in one's mind, but whenever Grudge 2 comes to mind, we give it more focus. We've empowered it. We've made that thought more real than all other thoughts. And that's how fear is created. But we didn't. We allowed that to happen. We can just as easily as treat it as any other thought. When a mother gives birth to a child, she certainly has thoughts of pain. But she's not empowering those thoughts. Which thoughts is she empowering? I'm bringing life into this world. I'm the mother of this child. This is my family. There's more empowerment that's given to that thought. She's not allowed that pain, not as much, to get into her. And very nicely said in Stairway to Heaven, to be a rock and not to roll. Right? We have to understand that, treat all thoughts equally, so that I'm not swayed by it. I am that rock, and I'm not rolled around by my thoughts, by my emotions. And this is really important to understand about the message, because, again, the mailman comes in and says, I'm a bad teacher. Shivam says, I'm a bad teacher. Okay. If what they're saying is true, that's a blessing. They've told me that I'm not a good teacher. And if they've said what they've said is false, why don't I let it go? Guruji uses more of an Indian example. He says that if someone calls you a donkey, if you're acting like a donkey, then say namaste. You know, thank you for telling me I'm acting like a donkey. And if you're not acting like a donkey, then who cares? Just a comment. Nitin's sitting there. What if I start calling him Deepak? Nitin should be like, who cares? It's just a name. I'm not Deepak. I'm Nitin.